Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to swatch one of my favorite colors, Prussian Blue, most commonly used with pigment PB27. In fact, every single paint here is PB27 because that is just, well, a Prussian Blue pigment. So I have 8 brands that we are going to look at today, and that includes Daniel Smith, Da Vinci, Azzaro, Van Gogh, Roman Schmal, Schmincke, Holbein, and Dollar Rowney. I had accidentally forgotten that I had a Holbein, so that's why it's kind of just randomly over here. Okay. And today I am using a number 8 Princeton Neptune, and that is just because I decided I didn't want to use my black silver velvet brush like I normally do. I wanted to mix it up. Okay, so Daniel Smith. Oh, we're going to need a little bit more water on that one. It'll be interesting to see how different these are once they dry versus how they look right now. Okay, and then we have the Da Vinci Prussian Blue. Oh wow, that one's already a lot darker. We have the Azzaro. You can already see ever so slightly the different shades within that PB27. Okay, and wet on wet. Get a little bit more on my brush. That one is quite rich too so far. I am using 100% cotton cold press watercolor paper for all of these comparisons. Now we have the Van Gogh. I really like the way that one starts off. Interesting to see how it dries. Okay, now we have Roman Schmal. That one is really dark when it comes out. That's a beautiful Prussian Blue as well. I have Schmincke. Don't know if I have enough on my dot card to get a good representation. Okay, luckily I had a half pan from an ocean set from Schmincke that I forgot about, so I could actually use the half pan. Okay, now we're on to the Dollar Rowney. That one obviously not as pigmented as the others, but this is a more affordable set of watercolors also. Although I gotta love how that just glides on the paper. Okay, lastly we have Holbein. This one is really dark right now, at least. We'll see once it dries. Okay, so now I'm going to let these dry, and then we will have a zoomed out look at all of them. Okay, so here are the 8 of the Prussian Blues. Now, once they've dried, it's quite interesting to see how they look. So the Daniel Smith ones, I mean, mass tone is so dark, kind of similar to the Roman Schmal, but once it goes wet on wet, it lightens up quite a bit. The Azzaro and Da Vinci kind of stay, same with the Van Gogh, stay with their mass tone, they just lighten up a little. The Schmink is actually not too bad. Now remember, I went back over this with Schminke from a half pan I found, and it's actually not very dark. It's quite interesting to see which one of these is really dark and rich, whereas others are a little lighter, even though they're all PB27. So like take Schminke, Van Gogh, and Dollar Rowney, for example. They're quite light in comparison to, say, the Daniel Smith, Roman Schmal, and Holbein, and then Da Vinci and Azzaro are dark. Azzaro stands out the most to me because it almost has more of that denim-like blue tint to it. And I hope the camera catches some of this. It may not. I do my best, but it definitely has a different shade to it than, say, the other ones surrounding it. Schminke and Van Gogh are awfully close to one another, to be honest. Just kind of surprising. If I had to say what my favorite Prussian Blue was, I would honestly have it be a tie between the Roman Schmal, and I actually really like Azzaro's Prussian Blue. I love the way it looks on this watercolor paper. I mean, look at just the grain there. It's beautiful. The Holbein isn't too bad either. I love how dark it stayed, even wet on wet. In comparison to everybody else, it stayed rich and beautiful. But yeah, I would have to say I really like Azzaro. I do love the mass tone of Daniel Smith, and then the mass tone of Roman Schmal. But like if I were to go mass tone and the wet on wet, I like the Azzaro and Holbein, I'd have to say. They're both nice and just luscious, but also both paints are really nice to work with. The Holbein re-wets really well. I had these in a half pan. I have the Azzaro here in a tube, and I'm actually starting to enjoy the Azzaro brand. I'm not going to buy a lot of them because I already have enough paints from my collection, as you all know. However, I did recently acquire dot cards for My Mary Blue and a Gallo, so those will start appearing in these comparison videos as well. There are Prussian Blues in both of those sets. However, I have not gotten to swatch the dot cards yet, so I didn't want to waste too much of the paint on this because I want to check out the dot cards first. But they will, from here on out, you'll see those if they have an applicable color to what we're doing. I think the next one I am going to compare is Dioxazine Violet. That's one of my favorites, or possibly in olive green. I'd love to know in the comments below what you would like to see compared next as well. It can be any color out there, whether it is a granulating color that you know multiple brands carry, or you know, something as simple as burnt sienna. I don't mind. Like I said, I'll be comparing by the name, and then I'll also do a series on the pigment number. So that said, while the other two brands didn't appear in today's name, they both use PB27 as well, so they will drop into my PB27 comparison. But I just recently got them and I need to play with them. So again, let me know what color you'd love to see next. I'm leaning towards Dioxazine Violet, but I've got a ton of paints and I am always flexible. We can even do another quinacridone. I'd love to hear from you guys what you'd like to see compared. That way you know what you can get. Also, there is a Winsor & Newton Prussian Blue. I just don't happen to have that one. I'm trying not to purchase them simply for this video series because I feel that would be a waste. I'm not going to use it. And my dot card for Winsor & Newton was used up, so I couldn't use it on here. But there is a Winsor & Newton one out there as well. There's quite a few brands, you know, you can purchase the same color from, but as you can see, quite different in how they look. Alright, thank you for hanging out with me for another comparison, and I will see you on the next one. Bye now.